Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the database. So in Android, the database which we are going to use is Sqlite. Sqlite database. So it is not any traditional database. So it is a special database in Android. So actually the Sqlite database is nothing but a simple class. It is nothing but a simple class. So this class has different methods which enable the operations of a database for us. So let us see how we are going to develop an application. For example, we are going to ask for a we are going to get the students data from the student itself. Okay, so we are going to store the students data into the database and retrieve and show them. So we will be having we need to ask the student for his name, and let us take phone number, the name and phone number. Let us take two fields so that you will not get confused a lot here. Okay, let us go to our Eclipse. So in the Eclipse, so I'm going to create a new application file, new Android application called my database. So next, click on next, next and finish. Okay, so we got our application opened here. I have just maximized the resources. The first thing we need to do is the designing. So in the designing part, I need to ask the student for what are the details. I'm going to ask him name and his phone number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this hello world. Okay, let me undo the action here. So I'm going to go to the code view and delete everything from here. Delete everything from here. As you know, we have already seen how to design a login screen, right? In the same way, we are going to design the screen here. So what we need to take, what layout should we take? We need to take the linear layout vertical. In the linear layout vertical, I'm going to ask for a person for his name, I mean the student. Okay, so I'm going to give a hint here, edit hint name, edit hint name, and then I'm going to ask him for his phone number. So I'm taking the phone field, right click, edit hint phone. Okay, so then we need two buttons, one for insertion and one for retrieval. One for insert, three buttons, I'll take three buttons, one for insertion, retrieval and one for clearance. So we need to have three buttons here. That is the reason I'm going to take a linear layout horizontal, linear layout horizontal. So we have placed the linear layout horizontal here. In the form widgets, I'm going to take three buttons, one for adding the student data, another for retrieving the student data, and another for clearing the student data from the text fields above or edit text above. So I'm going to put this in gravity as center, so the buttons will come into the middle. So I'm going to change the text for these buttons. So for the first one, I'm going to give something like simply add a student, and for the second one, I'm going to give like view or show. It will be a little simple thing, and edit text I'm going to have here something like reset. Let me change the hints of this also, so that it would be a lookup one name, edit hint phone. Okay, now we need to save the XML page. Now let me go to our main activity.java. So in the main activity.java, so we need to give the components which we need to have in our application. So what are the components we have in our XML page here? Totally 5 components. So 2 edit text and 3 buttons. So the first thing we need to do is create edit text. Control space. See, you need to use the control space often, so that we get auto code, intelligent coding completion. Control space edit text. For name, I'm going to take something like n, comma. For phone number, I'm going to take something like p. Okay, so for my buttons, I'm going to take for a v a s r reset. Okay, Then we need to bind the things here. This one comes as declaration, declare. So in the binding part, what we need to do, we need to bind the things here. So n equal to find view by id r dot id dot edit text 1. If you are unable to see edit text 1, that means, so either you haven't drag and drop the edit text inside the activity underscore main.xml, or you might have forgotten saving the thing p edit text 2. I just copied and pasted the code from the above one. So a equal to find view by id r dot id dot button 1, and put a semicolon here and import the, add the cast to the button. Just place your cursor so that you will find the errors there. So next one is s and r, and for these buttons their IDs will be different. Okay, so I have three buttons here. So first of all, I'm going to write the listeners for all the three buttons. A dot set on click listener, a dot set on click listener, put a semicolon outside, new space control space on click listener. Okay, you get this one. And when you place a cursor on the error, so it will show me the import thing here. So import on click listener, and all your errors will be gone. In the same way, we are going to write the listeners for all the other two buttons also. What are the other two buttons? S and R. Okay, okay. Now, so whenever reset button is clicked, what should happen? So the data inside the N and P should be nullified, so I'm writing like this: n dot set text, n dot set text, p dot set text. Done. Okay, so showing the data is a little bit a bigger part, so we'll be discussing that in the later session here. So first of all, we'll show you how to insert the data here. Okay, so what are we going to do here inside the on click listener button, on click listener of add button? So we are going to gather the data from the users. First of all, string name equal to, so name is present inside n edit text, n dot get text dot to string, n dot get text dot to string. In the same way, string phone equal to p dot get text dot to string, get text dot to string. So we got our name and phone. Then we have to insert this name and phone inside our, we have to insert this name and phone inside our, where we have to insert them inside the database. To insert it into the database, first of all we need to have the database, let us see how to create the database here. So again, I'm going to restore my my editor window here, and I need to create a new class. Inside this package. Right click, new class. We have to make sure that you are creating in the same class, you are creating in the same project as our main activity here. Okay, our main activity is being of the project my database. So inside the my database only, I'm going to create the class here. So I'm going to create the class with name db helper. I'm going to create a class name db helper. Okay, so in this db helper, so this db helper has to extend some class. Okay, let me show you what is that class. Extends, db helper extends Sqlite open helper, Sqlite open helper. So once I've done this one, what is happening? I'm getting some errors. Let me show you what are the errors here. Just place your cursor on the db helper. So it will show you to add the constructor for, db helper. Okay, select the first constructor. Okay, I have added the constructor here, and still the error is not completed. So let me go for db helper again, and let me click on the add unimplemented methods. So because the Sqlite open helper is an abstract method, so we need to implement all the methods inside the Sqlite open helper to make this concrete class. So add unimplemented methods. Okay, so what do we get here? We got uncreate method and non upgrade method. Okay, let me tell you about these things later. So first of all, what we have to do here, the first step we need to do here is create the object of the database. So SQLite database DB. SQLite database DB. Okay, so then see, whenever we are going to use this DB helper, we need to pass some values to this to access this constructor. So for this, so we should not have see, the common things are name of string name, constructor factor, and int version. So we are going to remove these three things and hard code these values inside the super here. So name will be the name of the database, something like college. So we are not going to use any factory methods here, so I'm going to pass null here. So any positive integer, okay, so I'm going to give 1 here. Any positive integer, so I'm going to give 1 here. And inside the constructor we need to instantiate our db object. So db equal to get writable database. db equal to get writable database. So what does it do? This will be creating the database. So save this. So just save this one. Okay, now what we have here? So we have our onCreate method. So database has been it will be created whenever we are going to create the instance for db helper class. So then what is the next step? The next step is we need to create the table. So inside the onCreate method we are going to create the table. So for creating the table we need to write the statement like create table, some SQL statement. So this SQL statement should be we are going to write inside Java here. So there should be an interface to call this SQL statements inside the Android. Now what is the interface? We have a method inside the SQL database called exec SQL. So we are going to use this method to write the code for creating the table. Okay, so we need to write the SQL query here inside the exec SQL. So what will be the query here? Create table student. So we need to, whenever we open the brace, we need to close the brace so that we will be able to understand what is happening here. So create table student, name, close, name varchar of 255, comma, phone of 255. So as you are not operating going to perform any operations on the phone, we are going to take it also as string here. So once this is done, what will happen? My table will be created. Now what is this? So I need to have a method for inserting the data into this database. For inserting the data into database, they haven't provided any methods here, so we need to provide the method. So I'm going to write a method here. So public void some add student, public void add student. So what are the values people are going to send me here? So string name, phone. So these are the two values we got from the user inside our main activity.java. Those two things will be given to this add student method. So we are going to use those to insert the data into the table called student. Okay, so here also we need to call the exec method on db object, db exec. Okay, so what is this? Insert into table name is student, values of. So I'm having two values here. So single quotes, double quotes, plus plus, name, comma, single quotes. Inside the single quotes we need to place double quotes and plus plus, and inside we need to write phone. Okay, so this will be this variable and this will be this variable. So once we done this one, what will happen? So our data will be inserted into the database. Data will be inserted into the database. So the code required for inserting the data has been written inside this add student method. Now where should I call this add student method? Inside our main activity.java, because I'm having the data here. So to call the method that is present inside the db helper class, we need to have the object for db helper. So I'm going to create an instance for db helper here, db helper db. Okay, and instantiations will be done before the on clicks. So db equal to new db helper of context. Don't use the get application context here. We have to pass the current object, main activity dot this current class object. We need to send it to that one. Now what we are going to do here, db dot ex sorry db dot add student name and phone, add student name and phone. So these two are the values we are going to pass to the student. So once this is done, toast dot make text get application context toast dot length long dot show. So here we are going to write something like student created or some message, anything, any message you can do. So I'm just going to run this application for now. So let us see if I am able to run this application or not. It is taking a little bit slower. Wow, what happened? So I got an error. So if you are using an emulator from 2.2 version, so you will be getting force close. If you are using 4.3, you will be getting, unfortunately the application has been stopped. So how to check the error? So till now we did not discuss that one. Let me show you how to check the error. Now get back to my Eclipse. If you carefully observe, we have locket. So double click on this locket and you will be able to see the error. See, the error information will be written here. Fatal exception main java.lang.runtime exception unable to start activity component. So main activity we are having null pointer. So what is the problem here? Let me check once. So there will be caused by. There will be statement named caused by. So caused by java.lang.null pointer exception at com.example.mydatabase db helper on create java 19. Sorry, okay, see here carefully. So I tried to call that on this one, but I need to call this one. So what is the parameter given here? Arg0, right? Arg 0. Sorry for that one. Arg 0. But anyway, we got to know what type of error we will be getting if students have done that one, right? Okay, now run this application, run as Android application. Okay, so I got here. So let me show you something here. So let me add some data. For example, Sujit phone number. Sorry about that. Click on add and a success. Okay, so we got our student created.